Hi, welcome back to the cab. It's Ian from Off Grid with Peniglen Cabin Life. The time is about 9:30 now. It's starting to go dark. Ooh, a Spony, you've not even nudged it yet, have you? So hi to everybody. This is season 4. I think it's episode 8 of Wednesday Thoughts Down at the Cabin. I wanted to talk a little bit about work for those who's in the dog game, for working tests and field trials. I know it's a strange subject for those who don't do it, but I'm going to be honest now. When you go to a working test or a field trial, before you start competing with your dog, you all meet up in the morning, and all the Land Rovers usually line up, and all the top 4x4s, because a lot of toffs go, and yeah, they all get together, and you can always tell which of the ladies at lunch and all that. Well, you're not allowed to drink at all if you go to a working test or a field trial. There's no alcohol allowed. But you'll be surprised that when you get there in the morning, how all the ladies have got the flask cups. And I tell you now, it's all full of brandy and vodka and rum and stuff like that. Honestly, it's true. Bit of whiskey and all that. Why? There's no coffee in the morning, I assure you, because a lot of people, when they compete, have got really bad nerves. Now, I never had that actually when I competed. I was focused when I got there and I was fine. But what you tend to find is when you go to working test, you go in a group. So there is, say, 6 of you in each group, 6 or 7, and then when you've all competed, you then move to the next test, and then those from that test moves to another test, if you know what I mean. And you find that a lot, especially the women, they all get together as a group and they go round, so they're nattering away to each other all the time. Now, those of you who go to working tests and field trials, you'll notice that it's usually the same people that win. Now, it's not because it's a fix, it's because if you notice, when you go round the working test and all the ladies and all the men and the mates are all talking, then because they're stood talking, their dog is what's called switching off, where it's not focused. But if you notice, the ones who compete and win are the ones that's always stood at the side on their own, and they're always just stroking the dog's neck and stuff like that. I say, come on, you're going to be all right. You're really fussing the dog, and it's focused and it's switched on. And when you go forward to compete, the dog's focused, switched on, goes straight to it and comes back. Now, those who are ladies at lunch and the men that all natter together and talk about stories, they're the ones whose dogs are looking around and bitching and stuff like that without them knowing. And when they walk to the test, then the dog's not focused and it does terrible. And that's why you know which are the ones that are winning, because they're the ones that's always stood on the side. And I always remember there was a lady with a Chesapeake that used to come and to working tests, and she never did very well at all. And this one that she was talking away to people, and at the beginning of the day, and I went over to her. I said, "Look," I said, "what I've just said now. You just watch, and those who are on their own, stood at the side, focus with the dogs. They're the ones who'll do well today." Anyway, she did the first test because you do 4 or 5, and she came up to me and she said, "Yeah, I know what you mean. I've noticed." Anyway, for the rest of the day, she was on her own, and she did like I said, and believe it or not, she won it. And when she won, she came over to me afterwards. I said, "Thanks for that." She said, "I'm going to do that every time now," what he said. It's just them little things that you pick up all the time, you know. And another thing that I always did in working tests and field trials, when I was doing the training, obviously, on an evening or during the day with my dogs, then I always remember going to the first working test I ever went, or it might have been the second one, it was Dukeries. And it's very hard to win one at working tests at Dukeries. It's one of the hardest places to win. And I got into the last 3 dogs. So they did a runoff between me and somebody else. Going last 2, sorry. And it was a runoff between me and somebody else. Anyway, I sent my dog down. He didn't quite get it straight away. He weren't focused, and he come back, and I got it. The other bloke went, picked it, come back. To be fair, that bloke won it. There's no arguing. He won it, and he won it fair and square. I'm always that way. If my dog didn't win, and I didn't win because it was legitimate, I'm all for that. So I was a bit disheartened, and I rung up somebody that I think a lot of, which is John Olstead. I rung him up and I told him what happened. And he says, right, never forget this. He said, right, where did you go wrong? And I went quiet, which is unusual for me. And I said, I'm not sure, John. He says, the thing you should have done is when you're doing your gun dog training, when you train with that dog every day at home, when you've finished everything you're doing, you should always practice a run off, where you put the dog just at the side, you walk forward, you set a test up, you go back to your dog, walk forward, stand and wait, and he said then you walk forward a few steps and do the last one, which will be the run off. And I'll never forget that. I never forgot he said it, and I promise you, I practiced that for weeks and weeks at home, and then the next working test I went to, novice, I won it. And it's a true story, that, honestly. I won it. And I rung up John right proud and I said, thank you very much for your help. But I must admit, John and Sandra have always been fantastic with me. If I was ever stuck with anything in dog training, then I would ring them up and they helped me out. They were really good to me. And I think a lot of both of them, actually. They're very kind people. So that's about that for working tests. What else? I can't think, actually. Oh, aye. You know when you win, if you win, you've got to do a speech. Hey, that's a killer, that. Because you think, you stood there and you're thinking, I wonder if I win, my dog were good enough to have won. You know, if you won it outright rather than a run-off. And you think, oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to say? Well, when it comes to doing an actual speech, I'm terrible. I know when I got married, I did a speech at the do, and I literally went, I do it working tests as well. I went, I'd like to thank everybody for coming, and I even said thank you for letting me win. I did it that way. First time I won, I said that in the speech. I said, I'd just like to thank the judges for letting me win. Honestly, it's true, that. So I'm always, and that when I do a speech, I like to thank everyone for coming at that, and I'd like to thank the judges and that. I'm terrible for it, terrible. So that's about it, really. So that's my Wednesday thoughts down at the cabin. All I would say to you is when you go to a working test, just be relaxed, be calm. There's nothing to worry about. If you're relaxed, your dog's relaxed. Because remember, when you're holding the lead, how you hold that lead affects how that dog's going to be all day. Now, if you're tensed up, your lead's going to be tighter. And that negative energy goes down the lead to the dog. It's absolutely true. But just do what you were doing training. Just have the lead looped right down and just touching the dog on its shoulder, and just walk around and just be like that all day. It will give the dog that energy and positiveness all day. Another little tip before I go, right? Those of you who's been to working tests, when you're doing a walk up, and there's quite a few of you in line, then when your dog goes for the retrieve and comes back, have you ever found that your dog's struggling to spot you in line? And then you have to whistle it in, or you tap your thigh and it sees you and comes in. And the reason for that is, if you think about this, when you do your training at home, you wear the same clothes all the time. But when you go to a working test or a field trial, you get more dressed up and you look smart. Well, the problem is that dog's not used to seeing you with them clothes on. It's used to seeing you with your old clothes on. So what I would say to you is, if you've got a field trial or a working test coming up, about 2 weeks before you're due to go, then when you do your training, you put your best clothes on when you're doing your training. So that way, when your dog comes back, it will always recognise your damn clothes. So when you're doing a test or a trial and your dog's coming back with either the bird or a dummy, it looks across the line to see where its owner is, and then it'll see you because it'll recognise them clothes. And that's a mistake people make as well. And that's free advice, that, from a dog man. That'll teach you if you can get to what I've just said. Now listen, you stay safe, you stay well. I'm sorry if it's dark, but I thought I'd do a bit of filming outside in the evening. I've got a spotlight on, but I think the batteries are going in it. So listen, you stay safe, you stay well. I'll see you next week. back down at the cabin. And remember, don't ever forget, dinky-doo. Stay safe, stay well.